Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of Beauty Lives podcast. Today I'm joined in studio by Arthur. I'm going to let him introduce himself and we are going to talk about a lot of things, starting with is life predetermined? But before then, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, it's Arthur, and I'm an artist and environmentalist, and I don't know what I can say. I experience life that for me feels like the total purpose of being. So I'm an experiencer of life. Whatever comes my way, I take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you're also a philosopher.
that I used to be, but you grow beyond philosophy.
Man, every discussion we have with you is a philosophical discussion. I think you're a philosopher at heart.
Yeah, at heart, I was a philosopher at heart because back then a philosopher is one who searches and
Mm.
asserts a certain philosophy. But once you reach a point where you have exhausted all searching and it's all about being, you can call me more of a mystic.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, someone who just goes with the flow. He's not searching, he's just there and he's accepted what is.
Mm.
Understand? So nothing, there's nothing that scares. I
Yeah,
think I've gone through it all.
yeah.
So right now I'm just being.
Sawa. So I think I'll just pick from just what you said about going through it all.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What did that look like going through it all? You can maybe share with us your life, eventually how you went through it all, maybe share a bit about your spiritual journey, all that.
This is going to be tough for me because I'm a person who have, like I said, I'm not searching. I've already made peace with my past. So going back there to try and explain to you what I went through, it's not going to be as graphic as it could be when I was going through it
For
because
sure.
you can't see the experience in my face.
Mm.
Understand?
Yes.
But personally, if I could start my story, my real journey, where I can be consciously, where I can be consciously aware that my life started going down the drain, if I would use that phrase, was when I was 8 years old. I, I don't know how graphic I should be.
We are going to put adults only.
No, I just want to say some things that people, it's not even adults only, even children have to relate to these things, but because it happened to me as a child
As a child, eight,
and
yeah.
nobody understood me, understand? So, however much I try to explain this thing, you might think it's just something that is not nothing to worry about. It is just an incident, but everybody's journey is personal and their experience cannot be understood by another person. So when I was 8 years old, I was in class two. I was introduced to porn, and it was in such a manner that is very traumatizing to me. Like it made me create boundaries of how I relate with people and my environment. And that is the first time I can remember that I consciously kept a secret that I wasn't aware of. So this time I was with my cousin and my cousin. He was older than us, and my brother, and he came with that tape. You remember that VHS, whatever tape, and tried to chase me out of the room, but I couldn't get out because I thought we were going to watch Lion King.
Mm.
Yeah, so I wanted to watch, and he was like, "This guy is wasting time for us. Let's watch." So during the movie, is when my dad walked in on us and he found us watching. And the traumatic part is seeing that anger in my father's face. It was like an authority telling me that this is bad. And as a child, you always expect to obey your father, even unconsciously. So that is the peg that laid down my boundaries, my association with people in life. So I gave myself like an ultimatum that I'll never relate with women if that is what they do, and if he and my father does not agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
So it kind of brought out a lot of, now brought out, it created a foundation for a lot of spiraling during my teenage years and the university. So basically, I don't know how I can explain this because I'm not attached to it as I was back then when I was struggling with it. But to not to create a big deal out of it because I want to prove that it's not a big deal.
Mm.
I started peddling porn. In primary school, I used to peddle porn because that was the era where a lot of middle class people had VHS tapes and were sharing movies and everything. And me, I used to go to town, buy porn, and sell to even adult people. And I was in primary, and I couldn't see anything wrong with it. The only problem is that inside, deep inside, I was hurting because I couldn't express myself to anybody. First of all, to my women friends, I couldn't express myself because me, I was very direct. The experience was direct to me. I couldn't accept that they had to go through a certain process of knowing me and me knowing them before we culminated to any
Intimacy.
intimacy.
Yeah.
You understand? So I was so detached and I couldn't tell this to anybody, not my parents, not my brother, not my sister. And not that I couldn't tell them, however much I tried to articulate it, I couldn't, they couldn't understand it. I couldn't get it out. So I was locked up in a place that I was just alone, consciously alone, and I was suffering alone. Life was good economically and everything, and my father was providing and everything, but emotionally I was disturbed.
Wow, I understand. If you could express, if you could go back, just in your mind right now, if you could go back to that boy and we asked him to express what would he say or what would he express?
I don't know. There are some things in life I just feel you can't find the words to say. As much as you're trying to say them, they're beyond articulation. So whatever is out there that is beyond articulation is what is to meet you where you are.
Mhm.
That's all that saved me. And that is what gave me the understanding that everything has a purpose. There's a silent knowing somewhere that knows everybody, that knows what everybody is going through. And that silent knowing, it will meet everybody in their turmoil, and it will show them why they went through that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Why do you think, knowing that now, why do you think you went through that?
Uh, it's very deep for me because to me, life is an alchemical process. Alchemical in the sense that it's purgatory. You have to go through fire, the fire of experience to know what you are, to relate with what created you in content. Without that experience, you cannot know your creator. You can only think, you can only think that all spiritual books are there just lying to you and they don't make sense, but you haven't finished the experience. When you finish the experience is when you realize that all these religions, all these books, they are saying something and they're talking to you.
Mm.
Yeah.
I get that. So if you could, because you said that your story is very relatable, and maybe one of the reasons why you went through it is, or we are sharing this is maybe there's someone who might be struggling or know someone who's struggling with
Yeah.
that addiction. What what was the question? Hmm, I've lost my train of thought.
It's okay because addiction, when you talked about addiction, for me, my life, my addictions were sex, and not sex in the conventional terms. It's masturbation, porn, weed, alcohol, and what? And loneliness. I was addicted to being alone. Yeah. Those were the key pillars that defined my teenage and university years. And it got worse when I grew up because it seemed like a prison you couldn't get out of.
Mm.
Because you're getting older and you're not getting wiser. Why am I not getting out of this conundrum?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was worse every day, every year. And it got to the point you're 25 years old, you're clearing university, and you realize you've never slept with a lady. So, not because they don't want to sleep with you, but because you avoid that situation.
Yeah.
You've never had that courage to face up to the fact that you can relate with a lady.
Mm.
You understand?
Yeah. For it makes sense because of where you place them that day, that
Yeah, yeah,
fateful day.
yeah. So you are my first relationship, not a relationship, my first sexual relation with a lady was with a prostitute. Then Durai, a friend bought for me, told me, "Where these guys should not be bothering you in your head. Let me go show you a place." And the way I was tensed that day, the way I was anxious and everything, I couldn't understand why I had to go through that. Yet the lady was just undisturbed, even uncaring. And that is what everybody else seemed to be caring about that. Yet I didn't understand why she doesn't care about my situation. But yeah, I went through that, and that is where growth started coming from. That was like a light for me. Because you think people people hate themselves for for being outskirts in the society, dealing with alcohol, drugs, prostitutes, and stuff like that. But you have to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, no one is going to love you.
Mhm.
Even in the depth of that, the only thing that will get you to light, to comfortable life where you are comfortable and you feel this is how I'm supposed to live, is love what you are. So me, I was a drug addict. I was addicted to masturbation. I was addicted to alcohol. I had no money. And deep down, I was depressed. And once I realized that I have to love myself despite all these things, that's when I started growing up consciously. That's when I started realizing that I can actually live within myself, even with all these things happening, and be happy about my being. And that's how I moved from that low to this place where I am right now. Because love is what is going to take you out from that depth, nothing else.
Yeah.
And not love from other people, love from your own self. This is what I am. I'm not going to hate myself. I'm not going to talk or have some nasty conversations about myself. I'm not going even to try and run away from this situation. I'm going to love it wholly, the way it is, the way I am. This is what the universe has presented for me. And this is what I'll deal with. Love it.
How did that light bulb come for you, and how did you
Rehab.
know you went to rehab?
I went to rehab. And I went to rehab not because I wanted, but because I went crazy.
Oh, say a bit more about that. And you're in campus now or
No,
after?
after campus. After campus, you're looking for work. You're dirty. You don't even relate to anyone. You can't have a straight conversation. So you're just alone and high all the time. And I couldn't find a job. So I got more into weed because that is what consoled me. And at the end of it all, like they say, you start hearing voices and stuff like that. So I did a lot of crazy stuff, like um, just crazy stuff. I can't explain. There some things that happened to me during that madness trip that I can't explain. But the one I can tell you is that it made me jump a running highway, a speeding highway. I crossed Wayaki Way from one side to another side and crossed back, and the vehicles were coming straight. So I could have been hit, but that is not normal.
Were you trying to?
I wasn't trying to commit suicide. I was crazy. That was weed. That's how I got myself into rehab.
Wow. So at this point, are the voices? So you mentioned
Voices are
voices.
telling you, do this, do this, do this. And people think this is not, this is not, this is normal, as in people smoke weed and everything. But you go crazy. No, if you can't, it's not about being able to hold that high and hold your ground, but if schizophrenia is real.
Because I was going to ask, was it schizophrenia?
Yeah, schizophrenia is
It was
real.
diagnosed as such.
Yeah.
When did the voices begin?
Voices. That was in 2015 when I was working at NEMA. So they begin gently. You can't notice them, but you what do you call it? You embrace them as part of you.
You think it's your
You
own
think
thoughts.
it's you. You think it's normal. You think people are talking to you, and you are the one who has never been aware of this situation before. So you think it's normal, and it makes sense. So that is when people say you have lost touch with the reality because you're speaking to voices that are not there.
In the office?
In they're silent voices. So like at times you can think that I'm just normal, I'm just seated, I'm just doing anything, but in my heart I'm speaking to a voice. It is a silent voice that is not there. And to me, I think that voice is real. So it goes on, it grows over time. It just doesn't start come like lightning at the voices and you go crazy. No, it grows. It takes like a few months, 3, 4 months before it goes full blown and you're crossing a speeding highway.
How old are you at this point?
2015, I was 25.
How long have you been taking weed at this
I
point?
started smoking weed in 2005.
10 years.
Yeah,
Which is high school.
high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so it can be detrimental. You know, there's a way weed is presented to us
No, it's
in
not
a
even.
very romanticized way, for lack of a better word. What would you say about weed now that you've gone through that?
Personally, I don't have a problem with weed. The thing is, it's genetics. There are people who smoke weed for 3 years, 2 years, and they go crazy. There's people who have smoked it for 50 years and they're still standing strong. So I don't know if it's not your cup of tea, you'll go crazy.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's
Yeah.
good to it's good to say that, of course, but we are obviously not encouraging drugs.
Yeah, not encouraging drugs. Me, I'm just saying that is just because there are people who smoke it and they're okay. And there are people who I've gone to rehab with and they are telling me I just started smoking last year and I'm here.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about rehab. You got to a place where you yourself
Yeah.
got yourself into a rehab, or your
No,
family?
after that incident, crossing the
Ndio.
highway,
Yeah.
my family got like, it's when they realized there's something wrong. This is not normal. This guy could have died. What would have made him do that? And many people saw me. So my sister realized this incident happened and Patrick is not okay. Yeah, so that's when they took me to rehab. It wasn't by my choice because I wouldn't have gone.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would have been such a breakthrough, like if you took yourself, because
Yeah.
that's a very rare. And I want you to talk a bit about your family, if you don't mind, so that we get perspective. Because I was going to ask you this whole journey.
Yeah.
Where is your family from 8 all the way to 25? Where is your family and what role are they playing?
I have a good family. I was brought up in a very well-rounded Christian family. I'm the last born of 8, and the dynamics of being a last born are very tricky because everybody who's older than you wants to tell you what to do. So which school you have to go, which decisions you have to take. It's like you don't manage your life. And the paradox is I was the only one who was smoking weed in the family. So nobody could relate with me at all. Everybody just let me be what I was. The only thing that my family did was to educate me. I went to good schools and I performed well. And that was what they wanted. That is what my family gave me, that they were like, we have now, after university, they told me, you have educated you, you can stand on your own now, do your thing. However much I was involved in drugs, in alcohol, nobody in my family ever
They
questioned
knew.
that. They knew, but there is nothing they could do, and they never questioned me. They didn't want to get into my space.
Did you shut them out though?
I didn't shut anybody out. I was trying to reach out, in a sense, but I couldn't
Yes.
because nobody could relate to me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's very traumatic. How do you even
You
explain
don't,
trauma
you
as a
can't.
child? Yeah,
Yeah.
I do understand.
And all these things started because I created boundaries when
Yeah.
I was 8 years old. So this is my private life, my inner life that no one outside is aware of. But when they see me, whether I'm high or drunk, they see a normal guy who just likes painting, drawing, and goes to school. But whatever is going on within me, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that you mentioned painting, you love painting. Your painting is amazing. Your artwork is amazing.
Yeah.
When did you start that, and was it a form of expression to let out that which was inside you?
Painting is just something that grew on me, because I can remember as far as nursery I was drawing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's something that I developed, and it's something that I leaned on when I couldn't relate to society. So when other guys were out there playing or socializing and everything, I was in the house high trying to draw. Yeah, it made me somebody like a loner trying to express myself, because it it made me feel like I can understand myself. If I could draw something beautiful and stare at it for a whole hour, it gave me peace, a break from the turmoil within.
Can imagine.
Yeah, so that is what I developed even in university years. That's how I developed my style, my painting, because it was my break
Mm.
from madness.
From purgatory. You call it purgatory. I call it hell.
Yeah, it's hell.
I feel like purgatory is where people just go and chill. The way we were. Are you what is your religious affiliation? You grew up in a Christian family.
Christian
What was
family.
their religious affiliation? Like how did you grow up?
We used to go to church. My dad is Catholic, my mom is Adventist. So I grew up in Catholic, but I went to Adventist schools. So right now I practice Adventist. What my denomination?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an Adventist. But all the all along, like I said, when you haven't gone through the experience, you cannot understand religion, because all that time you are searching, and as long as you're searching, you have not seen the whole truth. So whatever you read in the Bible or whatever spiritual book is there, it's just a fragment of what you're looking for. You're not seeing it wholly. Because if I could see it wholly, I could have been liberated there
At that point.
at that point.
What was your relationship with God? Did you feel like he was
I was
someone?
arguing with God. I was fighting with God. I was asking him, why am I going through all this turmoil? And that is where I used to take all my frustration.
In prayer?
I couldn't pray. It's like wrestling with God, like, why am I going through this? Because it's very deep pain, and you can't escape it, and that is the reality. Whatever is going outside you is nothing. The reality is what
Always.
goes on within. And the fact that all that while I was going through all that, I could not realize that that is the reality. I could just feel like that is life, that is how I am, and nothing can change that. And I don't take it as reality, like spiritually. I take it as something normal.
Like your fate?
Yeah, like
That's
my
my
fate.
fate. Yeah.
And that is what, right now, I realize that that is the soul, that is the reality, that is the soul living, struggling to find its way back to where it belongs. Truth, understand? And it's not an easy path.
I mean, it's never an easy
It's
path.
never an easy path. People think that they can run away from this or not, but you can't run away from it. I'm not condoning that you should go on and wallow in pity because you haven't gotten over your purgatory. No, you will be provided for because I was provided for. Everything is there. Understand? But your soul must go through the fire to be refined and reach where it's supposed to be.
Uh, did God ever answer you? Do you even just between then when you were wrestling with Him until now? Did you ever get an answer from Him or her?
It was soulful because my interests are really not normal interest, like conventional interest. I'm interested in art, in philosophy, in literature, things that try to define who you are and what freedom means. So having such interest, they gave me solace because I kept having life affirming mantras. Like when you read philosophy, you realize that what you are, what is, and you can't run away from it. And it encourages you that there's a silent watcher somewhere watching you. You're not doing this just for fun, and you're not going through troubles just for the sake of trouble. There's a purpose, there's a reason. And it gives you that encouragement, that courage to go out there and become what you're meant to be. There's nothing that can stand in your way if you have the right narrative within you. And that narrative came through my interest. I could see through the veil. Even when the veil was tormenting me, things you know very well this is not true, yet it is tormenting you. But the fact that you know it is not true, it gives you a chance to push it out of the way. So I feel like I had the tools to navigate. Yeah, philosophy was a great pillar in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not many people want to talk philosophy. Not many people want understand philosophy in the first place. And as much as I couldn't find anybody to discuss philosophy with, I found solace in those writings because I believe those authors were talking to me. They wrote because they wanted to reach me. That's why those writings are there.
I really love that.
Yeah.
That's so helpful and encouraging. Wow. I feel like when we talk of duality,
Yeah.
contrast, I feel like, or do you agree with me that you had to go through your experience, traumatic as it is, and I love that you're able to detach and now you see it as just an experience, that the only reason why you are the way you are right now is because you had to go through such a very deep, heavy experience.
Yeah.
To form a really dark contrast.
Yeah, that's my path.
Mhm.
There's first of all, there's no duality. There's no contrast. There's just what is.
Yes,
And you have to go through
explain
it.
that.
And you have to go through it. There has never been night without day and day without night. There's day and there's night. They are one. One cannot exist without the other. You understand? And the same way there is light in darkness because there are things in darkness that we don't know that are there. Understand? So because they are there, there is light there, they are there, they are aware. And there is also darkness in light because there are things we see and we just see the surface, but there's depth in them. And one day you'll become aware of the depth. You realize you were in darkness before you were aware of that depth. So it's all one. There's no division anywhere. There's no classification of this and that. You have to go through all of it. So the fact that most people want to run away from, not run away to avoid, they can't run away from the darkness, but they look to avoid that darkness. The world wants you to negate some parts of you. No, you're not supposed, there's nothing to avoid, there's nothing to negate. You are to go through all of it whole at once. Because once you understand darkness fully, you have already understood the light fully. Understand? So
It's
that
like
is,
shining the light of awareness on darkness. It becomes light.
it becomes light. Yeah. So That is the oneness that I wanted to explain. There's no duality, it's just one thing. And once you understand that the one, you also understand the other, and you realize there's no other. Yeah, so on oneness, that one, that I hope that one settles.
It settles, but you also told me something that I really wanted you to explain. Man, you know, Arthur, I can talk to you. I can listen to you for hours, and I have so many questions. It's always interesting to talk to you. So now I have so many questions. There's a question that's nagging my mind. Back to the 8-year-old,
Yeah.
the one I had lost my train of thought on. If you could talk to them
Mm.
as an 8-year-old or as a high schooler, that young you, right now knowing what you know, what would you tell them in words that they can understand? Because there is an 8-year-old, 14-year-old out there who might need this information. What would you tell that version? Just that.
Life, life is a journey, and you're a prince. So you're you're walking in your father's world. You have nothing to fear.
Mhm.
So whatever comes, it's not to break you, it's just to build you. You're being shown what you are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Oh, wow. That just touched the core of my heart. You're being shown what you are. Let's move on to another question I had about now after you left rehab.
Yeah. Rehab, that was, let me talk about rehab because people don't understand how God works. To me, I believe there's a higher power, and it's not just a belief. I've seen the hand of God. I know God is there. I know. Understand? And there's nothing that man is willing anywhere because I went rehab not out of my will, but out of necessity. I was sick. But that was a necessary break to the kind of life I had been leading before. Because in rehab is where I realized there's another way, there's another point of view to life. It's not just depression and despondency. It's not just wallowing in sorrow and everything. You can be a different way that is content, simple, and full.
Yeah.
And if it put me on that path now in searching for myself, for that free person, that rehab is what pushed me on the search for freedom. Because I realized people have been living and me have been wallowing in sorrow. And without that break, I couldn't have realized, however much it came in a very traumatizing manner, without that break, I couldn't have realized that there's another way to look at life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was rehab.
Wow, that's profound. So what happened after?
I um I got intensified in philosophy.
And even
That's when I started searching now diligently, like trusting myself, knowing that I can make a difference because I was now self-aware. There was a light kindled in me. I was now getting to be self-aware. Like I had crossed a certain threshold from darkness to light.
and which can you describe the Arthur you are now meeting in your search for freedom, and what did freedom feel like to you? You know how you're looking for something that you don't know, what you don't know, but you can be looking for maybe a certain way of being or a certain feeling or a certain Arthur that you must have been looking for. Can you describe to us when you say you are searching for freedom, what that means?
Um, I can say I've been to rehab 3 times. The first time was because both all the 3 times is because I was misunderstood. I can call it misunderstanding because to me it makes logical sense. All the times that I've gone to rehab, it's because God wanted me there. But every time I got out of rehab, I had a realization about me. The first time I went to rehab, I got out there with the realization that there's another way to look at life. You can't just be wallowing in desperation. You can be positive. The second time I went to rehab, I came with economic freedom. You understand? I got a job, I worked, and all things that I could not do before. The other time, I worked for all, nini, for my own sustenance and everything. Now, the third time I came out of rehab, I came with totality. I came out with totality. I realized that it's not the freedom is not the conventional understanding that you can do whatever you want. Freedom is doing what the cosmos wants you to do, what the universe wants you to do, what God wants you to do. And God does not want you to go spreading the message and no, God wants you to be yourself. To realize that even in raising your hand like this, it is God who has raised it. It's not about narrative, it's not about fear or anything. At if I do this, I won't do this. No, no, no. It's about walking the path and facing the impossible because you realize you are the only possibility that exists. That is the last time I got out of rehab, and that's how I live my life. I don't plan, I don't write, I don't do anything, I don't dwell on narrative. I I dwell in my mind and I'm comfortable with that. And all the while I've been living like that, I've never met an obstacle that was worth my that I could consider an adversity. You know, adversity is something that you want to fight to overcome.
Yes.
But right now I don't have. I'm not. There's no adversity that I can face. Everything just lines up. It's like the way in Psalms is said, David says in Psalms, to dwell in your temple for the rest of my life. I feel like the whole earth, the whole world, the whole cosmos is big temple and you're just walking in the presence of God.
Wow. Arthur. So when you talk of adversity, you told me the other day that you got into like an accident. Someone almost killed you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? Because you are talking about adversities that are not obstacles. They're things that now you have been able to overcome. Like
Yeah.
the first thought that came to my mind was that accident. So tell us how that went and how the new found freedom that you have helped you overcome that or go through it.
And this one was just an altercation, not an altercation because it wasn't my on my part. I was attacked.
Yeah.
And I was attacked at night. And I didn't know, first of all, I was going to be attacked. And the second thing, I didn't know that my attacker had a dagger and it was dark. Now, how it happened is what baffles me because it's at night and this guy, I can't see him and he has a dagger. And the moment he attacks me, he pushes me down, I fall down. The moment he pulls out his dagger to stab me like this is when I find myself catching this dagger on the blade. Understand? But I don't know what I'm catching and I don't know how I'm catching it and I don't know the impulse. It was dark and it was dark. This I didn't know there was an attacker and he had a dagger. So me, I'm walking and this guy comes up to me. From nowhere, he just appears. I just feel a boot on my chest and I fall down. And it's like when I fall down, he comes up to me and he pulls up his dagger. And I feel like in the moment when he was going to stab me, it's like you are in a medieval war and this guy wants to stab you with a sword and catch the sword with your hand. And this was a very unconscious impulse because I didn't know the dagger was there. I didn't know it was coming to strike me. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of it. The moment I became aware that something was wrong is when I felt the cut.
And it's such a deep cut.
And that is what I realized. Like, I felt a cut, and instead of leaving this, like,
Kuachilia.
kuachilia, ukichomeka si unaachilia. No, I was grabbing it tightly. Understand? Because that is where this guy's power was. If I could have left it, angeendelea kunidu.
And he wasn't even robbing you.
He wasn't
He
robbing
was
me.
just trying to kill you.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. So that is when I realized how can I put this? There's someone who sees in the darkness, and it's not you. And when that person appears, as in comes into play in your life, you realize you're not living your life for yourself.
Mm.
Understand? Because I couldn't have caught that dagger. The main reason why I caught that dagger was not for this guy to catch me or to protect myself, was for that silent watcher to show me that he is there. This is a scar for life. It's not a memory of an attack, it's a memory of uh, the presence of God.
Yes. Yes.
You understand?
Yeah. But we were in a church, I'd be like, hallelujah. Gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Someone, so like you were saying, there is someone who is in the Bhagavad Gita we read
yeah,
where he says that there's a point in time you get to and you realize you do nothing.
you do not.
It's him who controls everything.
He comes out explicitly and shows you you have not been alone.
Yeah.
You understand? And this is my stamp. You stay with this. Whenever you feel like you're alone, remember this happened. You have seen my hand.
Literally.
So what can stand in your way?
You should become a pastor. You touch my heart. They have this thing about you that just goes deep inside, like whatever words you say, you just have it. This is the second time I'm telling you this.
Yeah.
There's this other thing I told you where you have this gift of articulation, just explaining things which most people can't, or the philosophy that you loved.
Yeah.
You have this ability to give it back outside in a very nuanced, in a very easy way to understand. That's a gift. That's a second gift you have. Cool. Now that you're talking about philosophy, okay, so thank God you survived. I can't imagine losing you. I'm not, yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad your hand is working. And it's your painting hand.
Yeah, it's my right hand.
You didn't, not once did you blame God.
No, me, I was glad. This is what in alchemy you call the chemical marriage.
Explain that.
The chemical marriage is the union of opposites, like light and darkness. Because for me, you realize this happened in darkness, but I acted like I was seeing.
Yes.
So that is union of light and darkness, opposites.
Mm.
The union of spirit and matter, where God comes and lives in your spirit. When you realize that God has always that affirming fact that is marriage, the union that God is here with us.
Mm.
Yeah, spirit dwells in matter. Now, if you live with explicit consciousness that that is, you have gone through the chemical marriage. And it's a ritual. You see, this one was sealed in blood.
Literally.
Literally. Because after that, I didn't go out there like just running away or doing. I went saying I was carried out in a frenzy, making declarations, pointing out on the invisible, going like, "You, I see you. You, I see you," and I don't know what I'm seeing yet. I'm saying that. I don't know what I'm seeing. 3 times, you, I see you in the dark. You, I see you. You, I see.
Mm. And you were not high.
I wasn't high. Then I go someplace. I was running home, but I was making declarations. I meet someone with a panga and it's like with a torch, ananimulika macho alafu namwongelesha, and then suddenly this guy starts running away. I don't know why, but he had the opportunity because he could. I was helpless. That's how I went home and I was taken to hospital and everything. But that experience and the things that I said that night, they're not things you forget.
Yeah.
They're not things you forget. And these things happened when, at that period, when I was talking to you about spiritual stuff,
Yeah.
witchcraft, and all this stuff. That's when this thing happened. This was the culmination of it all. Because I don't know how to explain this. These are beyond words.
That's true.
You understand? But you remember that period when we were talking a
Yeah.
lot before I went to rehab at
Yeah.
that time.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
Wow, Arthur. Okay. So when you So you continued with your art all along,
Yeah.
and did it evolve? Have you seen any evolution in
Mm,
your art since?
I feel like the last project that I did, it was called My State of Being. It was about finding myself and defining where I am spiritually and consciously. And once I expressed that in fullness, I felt like I had exhausted all my expression in art. Like, what else? What is the point of art if I've already expressed this? This is where I am spiritually, and I've reached the fullness of that expression. Whatever is beyond this is about living, it's not about expression. So I don't feel like my articulation needs to go through art or literature because I've also written a few books on poetry, on my state of being, my memoirs, on my state of being, and some poetic books on being still. But I don't know what else is there to express beyond that.
First, I've read all that. You've given me the privilege, and it's beautiful writing.
Yeah.
And I have very good taste. It's really beautiful writing. And don't you think it's gonna come to you? Maybe that was the culmination of it was a chapter that you finished,
Yeah.
and maybe another chapter is gonna open up.
That's what I'm saying. I have finished with conventionality. Now it's like we are moving towards, you know, people are talking about a new age.
It has become it has
Yeah,
gone
we are moving.
mainstream.
We are moving towards a new age of expression. Not that my last projects, or writings and art, were very conventional, something to try and explain the world and make it know where I'm headed and where I am. But right now, I'm there seated, not knowing what to expect
Mm,
because I feel like I've exhausted conventional function.
yeah,
Yeah, so whatever comes, comes.
yeah.
That's where I am.
Mhm. So the question I would ask would be, I have also this other lingering question that we discussed, and I want you to explain isness. I really do.
Yeah.
And then I want you to explain. I'll taking off from that last thing you said. Actually, it's just me. I'm flat. I'm not philosophical like you. I'm just
Yeah, it's
a
good.
flat question.
Just have,
You'd mentioned that whatever needs to happen. I think that's where the isness comes.
yeah, that's isness.
Okay.
What must.
Explain isness.
Isness is everything that is. You take all the opposites and you bring them together and you make them one. So you realize there's nothing to negate, there's nothing to prefer, and the other one to avoid. No. What is what must happen. So in isness, there is necessity and there is mustness. That's from my books. There's necessity and there's mustness. Mustness is what moves, what comes along. You can't avoid it.
Like
It is
like
what is,
your
is in
life, our
isness.
life
Yeah,
experiences.
you can't avoid it. Now, the expressions of mustness are what are necessary. However minute they are, or however grand they are necessity. So in life, actually, my what is moving me right now, because this life experience is something very marvelous, and you can't say that there's something to avoid or something not to avoid. There's nothing insignificant in life. Understand? The thing that is significant is there because there was that which was insignificant.
Mhm.
It can't be there without the other. So don't be moving in life. This is what I'm trying to make you embrace isness. You can't be moving in life considering one thing small and the other big.
So let's break it down. So the question that would emanate from that, which is what I had asked you, is life predetermined to mean if you say that mustness, if you say that thing, everything that must happen must happen. Like your
Yeah.
when you were 8, that incident
That is a
had to
mustness.
happen.
Yeah.
the crossing Wayaki we had to happen.
This had to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying that
We are
there's
moving
no
towards
choice?
something. There's no choice. Choice is an illusion. There's no will. Will
There's no
is
choice.
God. There's no
Because
choice.
someone would say you could have chosen not to take.
No, we have one universe. You understand?
So is then life
There's no
predetermined?
otherwise. Because life is moving towards something. People are, even conventionally, people are moving towards what seems like very saving, like comfort. You understand? So
Yeah.
cosmically, we are moving towards life without striving. That is the purpose of life. Biblically, from the Garden of Eden was life without striving. Understand? So the fall of man, that is what necessitated the motion back to life without striving. And that is where we are moving right now.
And that means in levels of consciousness.
Because God is moving us somewhere. And where we see him directly and we do not. And that does not mean that we are supposed to strive right now. Because God is. Understand?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the illusion of choice is what you call striving. But the necessity, the mustness, if you live at the core of your being, you will see that you are not striving. You're going through the motions of necessity and mustness in isness.
I get that 100%. But when we just talk about is life predetermined, watu wanauliza, so does that mean I should just sit in my house and do nothing and my $1 million going to come to me?
Life is not about money.
No, I'm giving an example.
Yes. And
this
on the
podcast
second,
will find me there.
And the second place, there's nothing that is stagnant in life. Even that chair is vibrating right now. So what makes you think you'll sit there forever? You are not moving yourself. You are being moved by the universe. Even the planets, they never collide. They move. Nothing is stagnant. Your will is nothing. Let me just put it like that. What you're willed to by the cosmos is what is, and you will be willed. The universe promises motion because everything moves.
So that question is a redundant question. There's a word for it. Iyo swali ya, so does that mean I should just sleep all day and things will just come?
No, because you are assuming you're the one in control.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're not. Understand? So because you will try and sit all day, but eventually you'll find that you will stand and you'll start moving. And if you sit long enough, if you sit still enough, you'll realize that you are moving with purpose. And from where you are seated, you are not moved, even in that motion that you're moving, searching. Understand? You will be not moved internally because you were still enough to realize the cosmos within you, and you're not moved from you are the unmoved mover. Okay. So wherever you're moving in the world, you're not getting out from your ground.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You understand? So that is the core of being. That is where you should be moving from.
Yeah.
Because that is what moves everything.
You know, you're right, because one of the things that the teachers have been trying to teach us, the masters, is that, like, just be still and know I am God.
Yeah.
Just be still and honestly just live from inside. But we've been told that so many times, but do we do it? No, we don't. But it's true because I've tried. This is, you know what you said about experience being superior to anything else? Just when I've experienced it, when I speak from wisdom instead of just the narrative or just trying to force an opinion. It's true because I've tried genuinely living from inside and just sitting still, not even asking, just listening. More listening, less talking. And you find that I find that I am actually moved. I don't know how else to say. Yeah. I will just get up and move in the outside.
Yeah.
But I still have this grounding inside that is grounding me towards a certain direction. You know, in the Gita, I'm trying to remember, they say that there are 5 factors of action. I think it's the body. They said, I forget them. I never remember them, but the last one of the 5 is God. So nothing can be done without God willing it. So in essence, that's the anchor. that will say yes. Like, boy, me, I have the worst
Yeah,
explanations,
what?
but does that
No,
make
I
sense?
get you. Because before the fall, man was in constant communion with God. And that grounding is the constant communion with God. People think it's something flashy, like
Or
eh,
external,
or
like
external.
words, like the
No, you are
Pharisee.
being that conversation within you. Right now, it must be messed up and everything, but it's God taking you through the motions of chaos. And at the end of it all, you'll realize you have been orderly all through that chaos, all through those tumultuous emotions. And now they are orderly and you can hear yourself clearly. You call it yourself, but it's actually God speaking to you. God is not some religious person that you expect to follow doctrine and everything. Trust yourself. Understand that word comes from within. It came from within before it was written down. Understand? So trust that word that is in you first.
Yeah,
Rona,
it's
love
true.
it.
Because most successes I get when I listen to my inside.
Yeah.
And my guru, the first time I met my guru, the first thing he ever told me, I've never shared this before, I never even thought I would, was he said, you need to talk less and listen more. And I didn't, and I've not understood that thing, but slowly, the more my consciousness is growing, I'm understanding what he meant. He meant listen to this inside, not even listen. Yes, there's listening to the outside, but it's listen more because you understand more.
And you realize when you say that you're actually out of narrative now.
Or was I?
As in, when you listen more inside, you are not defined
I
by
am
outside
not.
narrative.
You're right.
You are
You're right.
yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was telling you
That's
before you
what you
came
were
here.
saying.
That people live in narrative. They are control is based on narrative. But when you listen to yourself, you are beyond narrative. You are subtlety. You are subtle. You can't be touched. You are like the lotus flower. However much that narrative tries to catch you, you are listening to yourself. You are in communion with
With
God.
God. Yes.
Understand? You can't be grasped.
And that's real freedom.
That's freedom. That's what I was. That's
I
why I
now
was
get
reading
it.
all that philosophy for.
Now I get it.
And to make it explicitly clear, it is psychological freedom.
It's true.
Because our the fathers of the nation, they fought for physical freedom. But the next evolution, the reason why they said the revolution will not be televised is because that freedom is in the mind, is not in action, it's not something that can be caught on camera
Or
and said,
perceived with the senses.
yeah, no, it is you
internal.
knowing that you are beyond any narrative outside you.
I think that's the one thing I think. You say many things that are always stay with me, but today this is the one thing that you really hit the spot on for me. Getting outside the narrative. The discussion we were having about the narrative was I was telling him how I was asking him how come spiritual people tend to the narrative is spirituality and poverty, financial poverty, because I've learned there are different types of poverty. Financial poverty and spirituality seem to go hand in hand a lot, and vice versa. And material world and worldliness and ungodliness seem to go hand in hand. So that is what I was wondering. And I keep saying, and until today, I keep saying that I want to meet someone who is both godly and wealthy, materially wealthy. And now I'm thinking of Abraham.
They're there.
They are there.
Yeah.
So that reinforced your point that I was just going with a narrative that has enslaved me, because I promise you that thing was I think it's a subconscious blind spot that I had.
Yeah.
Until we had this discussion and I was like, wait, no, but Abraham was very rich, whoever had all these ideas. And the people who, like now the Buddha, or was it Plato?
Yeah, Plato.
Plato, they chose
Yeah.
to walk away from their riches. They didn't have to, but they were still enlightened.
Yeah.
Enlightened enough.
They were searching for enlightenment.
They were. So they actually made a conscious choice.
Yeah.
Woman's idea. Yeah. Cool. So what else? We haven't finished your journey. How now, after the third rehab and you got a job? Because there was implication when you were crossing Wayaki, where you had a job at that point. You
No,
stayed.
no. Yeah, that was the first time. Okay, I had internships and everything, but when they were over is when I got into drugs, very isolated,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when that psychotic episode came.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then now you go to rehab and you come out and you get a job.
I go to rehab, I come out and I realize I can be positive. That's when positivity
Yes.
started. Then the next time I go to rehab is when I get my first real job.
When did you get a relationship? So remember you were struggling with relationships from the beginning.
Mm,
After the Gidurai saga,
yeah.
how did that progress? If you don't mind sharing.
My relationships have been very traumatizing.
Still.
Not still, but I couldn't be understood because I wanted someone who sought the clarity I was trying to show them. Because there's the conventional world,
Mm.
and there's the part where you realize you're not conventional. And you can't tell anybody something that is not unconventional because that is what you are. My relationships were traumatizing. I don't know. I was traumatizing those women, and they were traumatizing me because they couldn't understand me. I wasn't conventional because I remember one of them told me, just try reasoning by yourself, like being objective here. And to me, I'm like silently telling her, life is subjective. Life is not objective, man. You have to know yourself, not the world. And no one can understand that.
Yeah.
That's like some weighty stuff you have laid down
Yeah.
on somebody.
Yeah. Oh, you were saying this out loud to her?
No, I was feeling,
But this is how you are running your relationships in a
yeah,
very philosophical way.
yeah.
That's
But
difficult.
at the end of it all, I realized I never changed. It's like I'd stayed true to my path
Mm.
to the end,
Mm.
and now it's starting to tell me that this is who you are, this is how you have been, that is what. Like all that was trying to confuse you, but you didn't get out of order. Even though that confusion would have given you ease, you suffered for it.
Mm.
That's the difference.
So how did that manifest?
As in, man, I don't like talking about women,
Okay.
but one of them even called me a stalker because I was trying to express myself to them. She has genuine interest, but she doesn't understand me.
Mm.
And I'm trying to express myself, like laying down myself, like this is how I am, this, and she doesn't see it, and she's like, you're stalking me. And she was the one who even s- approached me and made me follow her and everything because my first action when any woman approached me was to avoid. The only ones I had trouble with are the ones who insisted because I had to let go and try and tell them this. Or maybe she might be the one who understands me finally. But if now it goes to the end, I used to write poems like these books just for one woman, but
Washa. Have you published them? Do you
no,
still have them?
I don't have them. That was in high school, but I used to write poems for people, and this woman I had a crush on, but this girl, eh, and it traumatizes a girl because you're writing very beautiful stuff, and when you go to talk to her, you can't express yourself.
That's true.
So she's confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if she tries to reach you, she can't. So I used to avoid. Right now, I can speak. I can speak like articulate. I can articulate myself clearly. I cannot be confused. I can tell her what she wants to know because I understand myself. And the fact is not that I understand her, I understand myself.
Wow. I like that.
Back then, I was trying to understand them.
Oh yeah.
And
And also have you be understood.
but
Interesting.
it all came down to understand yourself. This is when you'll understand the world. Yeah.
Literally they say that.
Yeah.
They say that. Wow. So how is that going?
Oh, that's cool. I don't have, I don't have, I'm not searching like I'm not seeking or anything. I think everything is laid down on my path. Me right now, I'm just walking towards whatever comes. You understand? I see everything. I see right now. I can say I see reality as it is, and that is the point of philosophy: to search for reality as is, not as you think. And that is freedom because I'm just walking. I'm just following the path I'm going. And as much as I don't fit anywhere in the world conventionally right now, me, I'm sure some things come up, and those are the pointers of where I should head.
That's true. That's true.
I don't have a plan.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I know some people would listen to you right now and be like, if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, you'll plan to fail and all that.
Yeah, but I'm not moved. I feel like I'm beyond all that narrative.
Okay. So if someone asks you, what will you eat or what will you
I don't know. I don't worry about that. I don't worry about that. That is God's problem. That's not mine. Mine is just being. Being is supposed to provide for you. If you know yourself, the point of philosophy is to know yourself. So if you know yourself, you are sure everything is you have everything. You know, people expect like to have everything physically for them to realize that they
they
have
have it
everything.
inside?
But the fact that you know yourself means that wherever you are going, you have already crossed all the I's and dotted all the T's, whatever that means.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you have not done in this moment.
Mm.
You understand? So that next moment will not be lacking.
Yes, yes. I hear you now. I understand you now. There's a time you would have been telling me things, and then I'm like, I hear you, but I don't agree with
I
you.
don't agree.
Yes, because me, I needed to strive, dot the I's and cross the T's. I just had to. And that's what leads to frustration. And
Yeah.
I've experienced it as well. So I really hear you. And Guy, I wish you all the best because I wanted to say that I believe you because I've seen you in different like times. Like the last time we were with you in at the temple.
Yeah.
And now you look really, really good. So clearly your planlessness is working. It's clearly working. You look happy, you look at peace, you look so much, much, much more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's fullness. That's fullness. That's fullness in the moment. That is what I told you. The silence speaks more than the words you could say because you're trying to explain the inarticulate. Let the inarticulate explain itself by you embodying it.
me, I will watch you. Just have to watch you because the people who speak like this are monks in India who are just walking with begging bowls
Yeah.
and hoping for the best. That's how it sounds like. But you're here now. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you should record your life for us to believe, for our minds to believe that what you're teaching us is something that's workable.
No, I'm not teaching. Me, I'm being.
I know you wouldn't. I'm not even telling you to do it because I know you wouldn't
I
do
don't
it.
know how that works out.
Okay,
I
then
don't
get
know.
disciples. What?
No, I'm not I'm not a leader. Everybody, if you want to follow me, Bana, follow yourself. Yeah, follow yourself. That is freedom because that is what I'm living for. I want to be like a testament to my life. I want it to be an example of freedom, total freedom.
Mhm.
I wanna, like no one can define anything for you. You already have the voice that we talked about inside you. What else do you need? If you can't trust your own thoughts, why are you trusting any other person's?
Mhm.
You have your own thoughts, you have your own emotions, you have your own
Guidance from God
guidance
side.
inside. Yeah, so listen. People are going to tell you to follow paths. Yeah, follow those paths. That is the process because there's nothing out of order. Don't think that me, I've reached this place because you are not at that place. No, there's nothing out of order. You are in the process, and you will follow that process to the latter until you reach where you are headed. There's nothing out of order, nothing out of place. Because if there was any, if there could be imbalance anywhere, the world would not be what it is. We couldn't be alive if there could be imbalance. The world is balanced and everything balances. Nothing is out of place.
So someone probably would ask you, so the people who are dying
That
in
is,
some country,
yeah,
some kids are dying
yeah, that is
in
the
hunger.
process of life. That is isness. You just don't see it because you are so materialistic about it. But spiritually, you don't know what that kid is going through. You think God is not with them. You don't know,
That's a
they're
good
not
point.
frightened. Because if God was with me at this point when this guy was going to kill me, at the point of murder, God is with me. What do you think about the whole world? You don't see it. You see it outside with the things you see in the news, and that's what you believe. I call that the process, but that's not the case because God cannot leave anybody. That's not the case.
Can we leave God?
How? How? You can't.
Yeah. So we are trapped. So
Not
there's
trapped.
no
There's
free
no
will.
other. There is no otherness.
No free will.
There's no free will. There's only God. Which God is not will? God even God doesn't have a will. Like a will would imply that I'm moving from here to there, or I'm changing from this to that. God is what He is, ever, ever, and eternally. Macheki. These motions we are going through, you're just being taught what we are. The fall to me sometimes is like that will, like man choosing to say, I want to learn what I am. And since there's no will, God is taking you through what you are to see what you are. Because He gave you the choice, the illusion of choice to realize that you either stay in Eden without knowing what you are, but you stay with me, or you go out there and eat the fruit of good and knowledge so that you decide for yourself and realize there's no good, there's no bad, there's just what is. And once you have unified that chemical marriage, once you have unified the opposites of good and bad, you become one, you become whole,
You become God.
you become God. You become, yeah, because that is what is. God only is. There's only God. So all these things that happen in the world, God is with you. There's no way He cannot be there.
Is there anything else you would like to say before we end this session?
I don't know. Me, I'm just quiet.
Yeah, you
I
are.
tell,
I'm the one who's quiet.
I tell these guys, man, you have to listen, not even listen, be, trust your being. You don't lack. Everything that is disturbing you is just seemingness.
Um, I think understanding is easy, Arthur. It's the experiencing that's hard.
No, that experience has to be had. It's part of the motion. There's nothing insignificant and there's nothing that is not. It is part of you knowing yourself because at the end of it all, you realize the necessity of all that experience.
I don't know. I'm feeling claustrophobic. I think this is why I chose to just leave that garden because I feel like God is just everywhere all the time. Like, okay, give me a break.
There's nothing to run away from. If you, there's nothing to run away from. What they call sin is just confusion. There's nothing like sin. It's just confusion. You suffer because you're confused. And you have to go through that confusion to know that there's no
Yeah.
confusion.
Yeah, ignorance. We call it
Ignorance.
ignorance. It's
Yeah.
true.
Uh,
Someone on Twitter was asking, is there what did you my mind? What I think they were asking, oh yes, is adultery sinning, for example, or is all the sins that are listed in the Bible. What do you say about that?
You have to go through it to know it. Because there are no two things in the universe. There's only one thing.
So adultery is
Whatever you call it, adultery, you're naming it, but me, it's just a point of, what do you call it, learning, because you will have the consequences of that. And that is the learning bit.
so. What was the purpose of those doctrines then?
Those doctrines,
If everything is, then why
those
can't
doctrines are there because that is the motion of coming to oneness. It's not an easy task. Creating the world is not an easy task. And from when the world was created and the Garden of Eden and Adam is there, then he goes ahead and confuses himself with wanting knowledge. Do you know how hard it is to learn to become God? So that is the narrative that all these religious books are trying to unify, to bring back people to oneness, to be one with God. So we have to know who God is. That is the reason for all these religious writings, to know who God is. Even in the Bible, there is many times that God has said, then you will know that I am, that you will know. The point is to know who God is. Once you know who God is, not presumptuously, not expectantly,
not
but
conceptually?
in totality, you are free.
I mean, it's true because that is what we are taught. My guru, we talk about God realization. Like once you realize God, it's even there's a ladder. There is belief, which is where everyone is stuck. Then there is conviction. Kama vile ulikuwa nasema, I know. Nobody can convince me out of my conviction that there is God. Then there is belief, conviction, then realization, which is like knowing. It's the way you know you are you. You know yourself
Everything
to be
you
yourself.
experience, it's it.
Yeah,
Is it.
exactly. So that is actually what he specifically has come to help us, and even that's also what Jesus was trying to help people do. Know God.
Yeah.
So when you know God, you're free. But for as long as you don't know God and you think you know Him, and it's a concept, and it's the reality and all these things,
and it's not like you're lost. It is you in the process, because there's no way you can never be lost.
Yeah, yes.
It is you in the process.
You're not lost, but you're not free. You're not lost, but you're not free. Yeah.
And still you are free because you are going to do what must. You are going to do the bidding of God.
If you're going to do something that you must do, you're not free.
You are free because at the end of it all, you will realize that I must do what God wants.
That's not freedom.
That's
There's
freedom.
Someone else holding
No,
on.
God is not someone. God
their
is
will.
everything.
Do you see I'm feeling claustrophobic?
God is everything. God is not someone. God is not someone controlling you. God is life. He is the.
Oh, I see.
He is the reason you want freedom. So he is the freedom.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I see. For sure I do. Yes, so we agree. And I feel like everyone agrees because there's nothing to disagree on.
There's nothing to disagree on.
We're all in the process and the journey. And that's what fascinates me. I think I want to see how different facets of this process, of this journey, how people are going at their own journey. Yeah. That's the other thing I've gotten. An appreciation for humans and the creation, and different perspectives, just seeing people differently. And I think that was one. God expressing through me is me seeing
reality as is.
Reality as is, but also the different facets of reality. How do they? It's like an art for me. It's like art. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is just perspective.
It is perspective, and now I'm appreciating. Before I'd be like, no, this is the only way, and there's no other way, and anything that is not on this way is wrong. You're lost. All that bullshit.
It means you're not in communion with yourself.
Which is
you are, but you're not aware of it fully.
I am growing into it, and I think that's why my appreciation for this has started growing. Yes. Yay.
Yes.
Cool. I think we can end here, and then we can plan for another session. So unless you have final words, which will start another discussion.
Guys, you just be yourself. Be yourself. Love yourself. Yani. Love yourself. Don't question yourself because you're not the one doing it. And the more you embrace love, the more you see clearly. The more that troubling part, that tormenting leaves. Because love, you can't play with love.
Yeah.
It does its thing magically without you noticing. You just realize I'm from here to there. So you have to love yourself. Don't question yourself. Don't traumatize yourself.
Yeah.
Just be. In the end of it all is just being.
Yeah.
You flow with the internal. Life is inside out, not outside in.
Imagine.
Yeah, that's my last word.
Mom, so many things to say about that, but I will not. Thank you so much for thank you so much for coming. I am always happy to be in your company. I love talking to you. I love listening to you, like I had said, and I hope that we have unfinished discussions that we'll have to move
Yeah,
in a different session. So I hope you will be happy to come back to return. Cool. So until next time, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please write in the comment section. Please share and subscribe. Until next time, kwaherini.
right.